In this demonstration, we're going to take a closer look at the Revit interface basics, starting a new project, drawing elements, the different types of elements, and how to enter dimensions and coordinates, and a little bit about selecting objects and navigating your drawing as well. A project is the database of information for your design or building information model. The project file contains all of the information required to describe and document your building. As the design progresses, you'll create as many views as are required to document the design. When you make a change in any view, all related views will update. So when we first start Revit, the Recent Files window will appear, showing you the 4 most recent projects that you've had open. And you can open any of these files, or you can pick Open to browse to another location and choose another type of file to open. Or you can create a new project. If you select a template listing here on the left under projects, it will start that right away. If you pick new, it's going to allow you to browse to a folder and find a specific template, such as the default RTE template from the US Imperial folder. I'm going to pick this and just pick open. The different projects or the different templates are going to be set up for different systems of measurement and also for different uses, such as residential or commercial. If you want to work in metric, you want to make sure that you're opening a metric template file. The units will be set up to work in millimeters instead of feet and inches, and all of the elements that you're adding, such as doors and windows, the preset sizes will be measured in millimeters instead of inches. If you are starting a project and all of the sizes are in the wrong units, everything's being measured in a different type of unit, close the project, start another one with the correct template for the system of measurement that you want to be using. So I'll pick default here and open and OK to get this new project started. If you choose the none option, it will create a very empty view. It let's just take a look at this. If I pick new and I select none for my template file, it's going to ask me if I want to work in imperial or metric, and I can pick imperial. And this is going to be set up with only a single level. There are no elevation views whatsoever. There's no preloaded content. If I start a wall command, for example, we only have a basic wall. If you try to add a door or a window, just one type of every type of content. So you want to make sure that you're starting your projects with a template to give you some preloaded content. We'll just close this. And we'll go back here. And again, you can just choose architectural. And as long as you're set up so that the US Imperial folder is your default content, then this will start the project with the correct template. Buildings are created by adding elements, and there are 3 major types of elements in Revit. There are model elements, datum elements, and view-specific elements. Model elements are all of the physical components that define the building, including walls, floors, roofs, doors, etc. There are 2 types of model elements. There are host elements, and those are all of the major building components which are usually constructed on site. Things like a wall or a floor or a roof. Model components are all of the other types of elements in the building model which are usually brought in and installed in that framework that you're building on site. So a model component would be a thing like a door or a window or a piece of furniture or plumbing fixtures. Datum elements define the context and critical locations for the building. And the datum elements include things like grids, levels, and reference planes. View-specific elements only appear in the views in which they're placed. They serve to describe and document the model, and they include things like dimensions, door tags, window tags, general notes. And there are 2 types of view-specific elements. There are annotation elements, such as dimensions and keynotes, and detail elements, such as lines, filled regions, and 2-dimensional detail components, which will provide more detail about a particular area in the building. To create an object in Revit, you choose the element category from the ribbon or the quick access toolbar, select the element type in the type selector, pick any appropriate options on the options bar, such as a location line or the unconnected height for your walls, and then you select points or host elements in the drawing area. Some objects must be hosted. They can't be placed directly in the drawing. If I don't have any walls drawn and I access my door command, I'm just going to get this little symbol, a line with a circle with a line through it, because it's asking me to add this door to a wall. And if I don't have any walls, I can't add this door. This is a hosted element. The host elements themselves, such as a wall, this one I'm going to choose my wall tool, and then I'll choose the height that I want for the wall. I'll choose the location line for the wall. Under my wall type selector here, I can choose to create a brick on CMU type of wall. I can take a look and set any other values here in the properties palette, and then I'm just going to start picking points to draw this wall. Now, if I want to draw this wall, let's just keep this rolling. I'll just zoom in here a little bit. And if I drag my mouse out, you can see a temporary dimension appear showing the current length for this wall. And it's snapping in 6-inch increments. If I zoom in closer, now it's snapping in 1-inch increments. If I zoom way out, now it's going back to the 6-inch increment. So the temporary snap increment is going to be based on the zoom level. When you're drawing elements, it's possible for you to just pick a point on screen. If I want to make this 20 feet over, I can drag my mouse until I see 20 feet appear and click a point. And if I want to come down 12 feet, I can drag my mouse down until I see a 12-foot point appear, and then drag my mouse over, and we'll go 12 feet again and pick a point. And when I want it to let go, I have a couple of choices here. I can pick modify, and that cancels the command. I can hit escape, and that cancels the command, or I can choose another command. Now let's say we want to draw these walls at a certain length. When I start my wall command again, it's going to use the same settings that I used on the last wall. So it's using the same wall type and the same height. That's fine. Now I want to draw a wall that's 14 feet 4 inches long. If I pick a point and then drag my mouse out, if I want to draw this at a certain length, I can enter the values by typing. And to represent feet and inches in Revit, if you just type 14, that means 14 feet. So if I just hit enter, 14 feet. If I want to go up 7 foot 2 inches from that corner, I can put 7 space 2. And if you put a space between two numbers, then the second number is going to be an inch mark. And we'll hit enter, and we've drawn that up 7 foot 2. Now we're going to go over 18 feet 4 1/2 inches. And if I want to create a fraction, let's say I want to go 18 feet space 4 inches and then another space 1/2, and that will draw this 18 feet 4 1/2 inches. And if I just hit enter and then right click and cancel, it shows me that line. Now if I pick this, this is showing the distance to the center of this wall. If I want to add a dimension here to the outside, I can go to my dimension tool or line dimension, and I can add a dimension. I'll pick wall faces, and there's my 18 feet 4 1/2 inch wall. When you're adding model components or when you select existing components, Revit is going to display temporary dimensions around the components, allowing you to easily position the component in the correct place relative to the surrounding elements. So if I choose my door command and I want to draw a door and I pull this in, you can see a little temporary set of dimensions appear. And again, that temporary dimension that's showing the 3 foot 6 inches, that's showing from the center of the door to the center of the adjacent wall. Now how those temporary dimensions are placed is going to be controlled in the temporary dimension properties dialog. And I can change this up so that the temporary dimension will show to the face of the wall and the face of the opening. I'm just going to hit escape and we'll take a look at that. I'll go to manage, And then from my Manage tab, I'll go to Additional Settings, and I'll choose Temporary Dimensions. And I can say that the temporary dimensions should not measure from the center lines of walls, but to the faces of walls. And if I want the doors and windows to be located from the edge of the opening to the face of the adjacent wall, I can change that as well. Now when I pick OK, if I pick this wall, now if I add a door again, go back to my Architecture tab, and I add this door, this time the dimension is showing from the face of the wall to the face of the door. So if I click a point here, it's going to be exactly 3 feet from the right-hand wall. After you've added an element, those temporary dimensions appear again, and I can change those elements to move this door. If I just pick Modify and select this door, I can change this value to 4 by picking it and hitting Enter, and it will move the door over. If I want this door to be measured from this side of the wall, I can pick this little blue control grip, and if I pick, it goes to the center. If I pick again, it goes to the outside. So if I want my door opening to be 6 feet from this outside wall, then I can just make sure that this is positioned to the outside face by clicking on that little blue grip, and now I can change this value to 6 by picking and hitting Enter, and it will move that element. When you select any element, it's going to show temporary dimensions, and if there are any permanent dimensions that have been added, both of those will show blue text. And if you see blue text, that means you can edit that text. And I can pick this 18 feet 4.5 inches and change that to 20, and it's going to push that wall over. When you're selecting an element, the element that you select is the one that's going to move if you change a value. Let me see, let's just draw another wall here. I'm going to pick this wall, and then I'll choose this icon here that says Create Similar, and we'll add another wall over here on this side. And if I pick this wall and I see a dimension here, I can change that dimension to 12, and the wall that I have selected will push over. If I pick this wall and I see that same 12-foot dimension and I change this value to 15, the selected element is the one that's going to move. Pick here, I see the 15. The one that I pick is the one that will shift. If I pick this door and I want this door to be measured from the outside face here, I can click this little Move Witness line, and you can pick and then change the value, and we'll shift this over to 6 feet. You can also select those little points, and then you can pick and drag on them. So you can drag it into the center, or I can drag it to this inside face. I can even drag it all the way over to another location and change this to 25 from that far point. So you can move the temporary dimension witness lines by picking the blue boxes or by picking and dragging. By default, the temporary dimensions are only going to be shown for the last selected object. It's possible to display temporary dimensions for multiple objects by selecting them and then choosing Activate Dimensions from the options bar. If I pick this wall, I see dimension here. If I pick this wall, I see this dimension. If I pick this wall, press Control and pick a second wall, then those temporary dimensions are hidden. But I do have an option to force the display, and now I can pick another dimension here, and because two walls are selected, if I change this value to 14, both of those walls are going to move. Navigation techniques within the Revit drawing area are similar to those found in other Autodesk applications, and the fastest way to enlarge or reduce the size of the current view is to turn the wheel on your mouse. If you don't have a wheel on your mouse, throw it away and get one. If I want to zoom in on this door, I'm going to move my cursor down to that door and start turning my mouse wheel forward and back up. If I have another door over here, let's add another door here, and another door here, and another door here. If my mouse is located around this door on the left, and I start zooming by turning my mouse wheel forward, it zooms in on that door. If I zoom back out, move my mouse over to this door, and then start turning my mouse wheel, it's going to zoom in on that area. If I want to zoom in the middle, I'll just move my mouse to the middle and then zoom in like that. To do a pan, press the middle button and you see a little double-ended arrow, and you can just pick and drag to pan your view. You can also navigate your drawing by using navigation tools here on the right hand side of the screen, and we have some zoom tools. If I pick here, the default, or the one on top, is called a zoom in region, and this is the same as a zoom window if you're coming from an AutoCAD background. If I do a zoom in region by picking this tool, now I can make a little rectangular area. So I'm going to pick and drag out a rectangle, and then that area fills the screen. If I reach in here and I choose to zoom all to fit, it's going to zoom out and it's going to include everything. So here, these little boxes, these are called elevation tags, and these are going to be included in the zoom operation as well. If I want to do a zoom window around this section of walls, I can type ZR for zoom region, that's the shortcut, and then drag an area. If I want to see everything, I can type ZF, and that does a zoom fit. I think it's faster to use keyboard shortcuts, one hand on the mouse, one hand on the keyboard. ZF to zoom fit, ZR to zoom in, pan it, turn the wheel to zoom in and out. Now if you want to get a 3D view of your model, you're going to see a few new controls, and the easiest way to get to a 3D view is to reach up to the quick access toolbar, and there's a little icon of a house, and that's going to set your default 3D view current. And when I pick my default 3D view, it shows the building elements in 3D. We can shade this to see what we have here. And now we have a new icon appear, and this is called a view cube. And this little view cube lets me change the view of my model. And I can do this by picking on a corner of the view cube to rotate the view. I can pick a side of the view cube to go to a side view, and I can restore a home view by picking this little home symbol at the top. There's a little compass icon as well, and I can pick and rotate the view with that little compass icon. I can pick anywhere on the view cube actually and rotate my view to any direction. But there's even a better way for changing your view in 3D, and that is to press the Shift key and your middle mouse button at the same time, and that does an automatic 3D orbit. And this is really slick. You can turn your mouse wheel to zoom in. You press the button to pan it over, and if you want to change the direction, you press the Shift and middle button, and then you can rotate it, pan it, zoom in on it, pan it, zoom, press Shift, rotate to change your view of the model in this fashion. So your middle mouse button is very handy. There are some other ways that you can use view cubes and also steering wheels as well, and we'll take a closer look at that in the next class. With regards to object selection, let's go back to a plan view. Now if you want to get back to an actual plan view, don't just pick the top of the view cube. This just changes the 3D view. You're still in the 3D view, it's just changing the viewing direction. So to get back to a real plan view, go to the project browser and then double click the view that you want to make active. So we want to go to floor plan level 1, pick it, and double click it. Want to see more detail in your walls? Change this to a shaded view so you can see color, and a medium detail level, and you'll see all of the components. I'm just going to flip that wall around. And I did that by picking it and then picking this little set of control grips. So when you select an element, it might show a couple of flip grips, and this lets me flip the direction of the door in and out. If I want to select several objects, I can select one object just by picking it and then do whatever I want. I can access a copy command. If I want to cancel and stop copying now, I'm just going to hit escape, or I can press the modify tool. If I have one object selected and I pick a second object, the first object is removed from the selection. If I want to select multiple objects, I'll pick one, press Control, pick another, Control, pick another, Control, pick another, and I can select multiple objects. If I want to remove one, I press Shift and I remove the one that I don't want. If I want to start adding to the selection again, then I just let go of Shift, and I will be adding elements. To get rid of an element, you can pick it and hit the delete key. There's also a delete option on the ribbon. Easiest way is to just use the delete key. I'll pick this and I'll choose to copy it exactly 4 feet to the right. So just like when I draw a wall, I can specify a distance by typing. If I want to copy this over 4 feet 9 inches, I'll just start going in that direction, and I'll put in 4 space 9. Now if you want to move an element, let's say I want to select this and I want to move it down 4 inches. I can select a temporary dimension and just change this value. If I use my move command and I pick a point and I start dragging down, depending on my zoom level, I could zoom in until I see that 4. If I just type 4, that means 4 feet. If you want to specify inches, use the quote or double quote symbol or the inch mark, and then hit enter, and that's going to shift that down 4 inches. Usually the easiest way to move elements is to just look at a temporary dimension and change the value. So I can set this to 9, and that'll move it down 9 feet. Set this back to 1.5, and that would be 1 foot 6 inches. That's another way that you can enter a distance. If I change this to 2.5, that's the same as 2 foot 6. If I want this at 1 foot 6, I have two choices: 1 space 6, 2 space 6, or I can go 1.5 or 2.5. If it's a 7, obviously the decimal is not going to work, and then using the space between the feet and inches will be more appropriate. If you want to select all objects of one type, you can select one object, and then if I type SA, that's a shortcut for select all, and you can see that it found all 5 doors when I did that. The number of objects that are selected are going to show here on the left side of the screen. Under my type selector, there's a little selection control window, and it shows that I have 5 doors selected. If I want to do a crossing or a windowed selection, I can pick and drag my mouse like this, and if I go from left to right, that's a windowed selection, and any object that is entirely within that rectangular area will be selected. So the 2 doors are highlighted and they are now selected. If I go in the other direction, if I go from right to left, you can see that the frame looks like it's dashed, and this is creating a crossing. And in this instance, anything that is partially or entirely within the rectangular frame is going to be selected. Because I'm selecting multiple entity types this time, if I pick, This time it shows me multiple categories are selected. If I reach into my little type selector here, it shows that there are 2 doors and 2 walls that are selected. There's also a filter icon that appears. If I choose filter, it's going to show all of the different categories of items that are selected and also the number of items. If I want to select just the doors, I can clear the check mark by walls and pick apply, and it's going to change that. So now only the doors are selected. I can choose to check none, pick my doors and apply, clear that, check walls and apply, and this time all of my walls are selected. If I change those walls to a different type, such as a 4-inch generic brick, they're all going to be updated. All right, we're going to stop there, and when we come back, we're going to start our first actual project for the course, and we'll be doing that in just a few minutes.